Time magazine today named Tesla CEO Elon Musk as its 2021 Person of the Year. He was going to go out and buy a copy, but then he realized he'd have to pay taxes on it, so it was, not worth it.
Hello and welcome to episode 92 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm James Whittingham. This week, Toyota announces 30 images of what appear to be EVs. The Tesla Semi is in limited production. Ontario picks a winner for their new nuclear reactor. All that and more on this edition of the Clean Energy Show. Brian, you just literally got back from a trip and your arms seem tired. How was your EV trip this time?
Well, my back is still tired, but I've got a chiropractor appointment tomorrow. But I may have to adjust my position again halfway through the podcast, like I did.
You promised us. You promised us it would get better in a couple days of rest. All the listeners were counting on that.
It's been lingering, so I went ahead and booked a chiropractor appointment, hoping that would help. But anyway, long story. I'll try and make short. I needed to take a family member up to Saskatoon for a medical appointment. And I had to decide whether to take the Tesla or take the gas car.
Why would you even think about it?
I decided to take the gas car because time is a little bit of the essence. We had to make it there for an 11 a.m. appointment. It's, about a 3-hour drive. And I thought, well, there's a little bit of room for error there with the Tesla, the charging stop halfway. What if the supercharger's not working, which does happen, occasionally. They only work, 99% of the time. Anyway, so did the same trip I've been doing a lot lately in the EV, did it in the gas car, and I almost instantly regretted it. It was just, once you get used to all of those features, not even so much EV features, but sort of safety features like the, lane keep and the adaptive cruise. And a lot of this driving was early in the morning while it was still dark or at, dawn. And that's when you're most likely to hit a deer around here. Mm-hmm. So I was very nervous about hitting a deer. And if I'd been driving the Tesla, then, the Tesla might actually be able to swerve to avoid a deer. So long story short, I didn't care for it. It's been a long time since I've done a highway trip where I had to steer the car myself, James. And
a caveman.
Like an animal.
Like an animal. Wow.
So I didn't care for it.
First world problems, Brian. First world problems. It's winter here. The roads are in good condition. And how long would you have had to stop in your Tesla, do you think?
Well, it would have been about a 25-minute charging stop.
Did you stay overnight in Saskatoon?
Stayed overnight and then left the following morning. So,
Would you have been able to find a hotel with a charger? Yeah,
we always stay at a place that has a charger. It was mostly that, on the very off chance that the supercharger wasn't working because there's no other option. Like it's the only charger and my car doesn't quite have enough range to make it all the way without a charge. So, I was just getting nervous and went with the fossil fuel burning option.
So Saskatoon is the other city, the two major cities, and you would stop between them in a place called Davidson, a small town. And that is where the Tesla supercharger is conveniently located. And a non-Tesla supercharger is inconveniently not located there. So there is nothing else there. We're hoping to get something there sooner than later. Now, if they did have a non-Tesla charger there for everyone else, would you have had an adapter for one like that? Could you make regular trips up there as a backup?
Eventually, yes, but I don't right now. The only adapter available is the CHAdeMO adapter from Tesla. It's quite expensive. The CCS adapter from Tesla is coming soon, so that's the one that I hope to get and everyone hopes to get. And then, we'll be able to charge at other chargers. But, that supercharger's been there for 2 years now. And no other charger has appeared, so I'm not holding my breath.
The people who are putting in chargers, these gas stations, Canadian Tire chains and things like that in Canada, they seem to do what they want, not what the EV drivers. And they want to be able to say, we've got a coast-to-coast highway on the Trans-Canada, the number one that goes from coast to coast. But they don't really care that, our population desperately needs one here at a certain location where they have facilities. There's gas stations there, including Co-op. A local company or a co-op actually that, will put chargers in some of their gas stations in town, but not where we really, really need one. so I wanted to tell everybody that I did take the page off Facebook for ethical reasons, our Clean Energy Show page. Not that it really mattered because it wasn't getting terrible use. We'd have to sort of have an audience for some sort of other page there and be sharing.
Yeah, you really got to, like any social media, you got to work it and to get it to work. And we haven't been working it anyway.
Except for TikTok. Anything I throw sticks at the wall there. I could throw this conversation out there. We get millions of hits, or at least a few, So, but the other problem, Brian, is that Facebook is reportedly getting into podcasting, so they might have podcasting built in to their platform. And if in the future that I find that we could get more people accessing the show that way, then I might talk to you about going back. I don't feel good about it, but, listeners are listeners.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it. And I did want to give an update on my own because I mentioned several weeks ago I was planning to delete my Facebook and my Instagram for ethical reasons. I didn't do it, and it looks like I'm not going to do it. I just decided that it would be too much of a hassle. It would be too much of a detriment to me. It'd be like such a tiny, non-existent threat to Facebook. It would do more damage to me, basically, is what I decided. So I decided not to do it. But I don't go on Facebook anymore. I just use Facebook Messenger. I basically stopped posting on Instagram, but I do go on there, and I do sometimes see important posts from a friend of mine about things that they're doing. So I don't want to get rid of that completely. But yeah, I didn't want to have to set up all of these alternate communications channels, basically, with friends. I sort of thought, well, I'll delete Facebook and then I'll send an email and make sure I can still contact a bunch of people. Yeah, decided not to.
Okay, well, I use Facebook a lot less for ethical reasons and for the fact that it's just gone to crap. I don't know. It occurred to me the other day, why is Trump building his own platform? He has Facebook. That's right. Turned into a right-wing anger platform as it is. The article I wrote for CBC, it got criticism only on Facebook. Everywhere else was fine. On Facebook, people, they had to take it down. They had to close the comments and remove them because they were, I don't want to even know, but, and speaking of that, a couple of weeks ago, I gave a presentation annually that I do on electric vehicles in winter. And I wanted to bring up something that I forgot to mention, and that is that an audience member asked an interesting question, and that is, are EVs more expensive to insure? And I think this person had heard that. And it might be FUD. It might be, BS that gets circulated around social media and even in the real media, because we saw a media report last week that was full of disinformation or wrong information. So, yeah, is insurance more expensive for EVs? Now, I had the Tesla owner up there, fortunately, and he said that basically he was going from, I can't remember if it was a pickup truck or a pretty big SUV to his Tesla, and it was cheaper for the Tesla. So, and his car wasn't very new and modern. It didn't have a bunch of tech in it. It was just, what a regular Saskatchewan rural person probably drives, bigger vehicle, nothing high tech.
Yeah, well, around here, supposedly the insurance rates are calculated on the actual cost of repairs. When a car is new, they don't actually know how much it's going to cost to repair, so they just kind of make a guess. But once a car model has been around for a few years, they look at the statistics for, number of accidents and what it costs to repair. And yeah, supposedly those insurance figures are based on the actual cost. So if you've got a car that's got really expensive parts or something, you'll eventually pay more. But of course, insurance is different in every jurisdiction, and a lot of it's run by private companies, and who knows where they get their data from.
Well, Elon Musk was selected Times Newsmaker of the Year or Person of the Year.
It's really hard to escape Elon Musk's dominance over so many things in American life right now. He's got this rocket company that is completely dominating the space launch business. He's got a car company that is completely dominating the electric vehicle market. He's got 65 million Twitter followers, and he likes to make weird jokes and set people off. And sometimes with a single tweet, he can control the stock market or the value of various different cryptocurrencies. So this is a man who's just sort of become ever present across a lot of different sectors. And this was really the year that he came into his own.
Now, I was a bit surprised by this. I can totally see it. If I were on the selection committee, I might have gone there. And a lot of people, even in our space, may have been surprised by that. But if you add up everything that's going on in the world, everything that we talk about, a lot of it can be traced back to Elon. And this is his coming of age year, don't you think?
Yeah, well, Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, the famous Rockefeller fortune.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fortune built on oil. At one point, Rockefeller controlled something like 90% of the oil market, and he got into it early enough that he completely dominated and became, the wealthiest person in history. He might still be the wealthiest person in history when you adjust for inflation, I think. But if you think about it, Musk is kind of doing the same thing, but with clean energy and clean tech. He's the new Rockefeller. That's just one aspect. First of all, you and I could have started companies exploiting clean energy and also become the richest person in the world.
Brian, you make the most excellent point sometime. I'm going to throw that on TikTok. You just watch the numbers rack up on that.
You just watch.
That's a good point, though.
But the other point I wanted to make about that relates back to what you were talking about with Facebook. And of course, we're in the era of online division. There's two camps to everything. Everybody's Facebook is particularly bad for it, where people get into their own bubbles of their own viewpoints, and they just go on Facebook to get their own viewpoints regurgitated back at them. And so in that sense, in this modern era of 2021, Musk is the perfect choice for Time magazine to make, because it's one of the most divisive choices that they could make, because it's going to make half the people super angry, and then half the people, maybe less than half, I don't know, super happy. He's just a divisive figure. So it's something everybody can have an instant hot take on social media of, Elon Musk is a horrible billionaire. He shouldn't be the Time magazine. And then someone else can say, hey, he's saving the planet. He should be the man of the year, et cetera. It's the perfect choice just from a, ratings or clickbait viewpoint.
Okay, but he's always been there. He's always been saving the planet for many years now. This year, though, and we talk about this every week, there is a huge, massive movement in the world going on. And he's largely behind it. I mean, we look at you look at his stock, biggest car company in the world. How do you define that? By market cap. Certainly has shaken everybody, even Toyota, which we'll get to, although they're only minorly shaked. And a lot of people are getting rich off of him. And a lot of people who've believed are, having that paid off. And then you see all these other car companies massively this year throwing their weight behind clean energy. And then you see COP26 and the world getting behind this, and mandates happening, and the fact that country after country is setting a date for killing the gas vehicle and diesel and having only EVs being sold. That's because of Elon. We would not be having those conversations the way we're having them now if it wasn't for Mr. Musk. And he drives me crazy because I think he's just does himself in way too often with kookiness. And I don't think he's funny. He's a fan of humor. And a lot of people are, and not everybody can repeat that don't sound like dad jokes. But I'm not going to criticize his humor because that doesn't matter.
And it's an odd thing because he had a tweet recently, a few days ago, where he said, I'm thinking of quitting all my jobs and just becoming an influencer. What do you think? And, and it got reported as like an actual news story. And I'm not sure if the people reporting it actually believed that it was an actual news story, but they knew it would generate clicks if they made it into a news story. And if you don't follow Elon, you might not know that that's like an obvious joke. But if you're just sort of a casual observer and you think, oh, well, he's got a huge presence on Twitter, he's got 65 million followers, maybe he would become an influencer. If you don't know anything about him, you could believe
And then
that.
You've got the Biden administration putting trillions into clean infrastructure, including EV chargers and EV tax rebates, and they're still working on that. But it's a big message that said, he's the guy. He's the guy that made that possible. And his stated ambition was to advance the electrification of transportation. It was inevitable. I mean, we'd run out of oil eventually and have to do it anyway. He wanted to advance it. He wanted and speed it up by maybe 10 years. Job well done, sir.
No, and he wanted to be an example for other car companies to kind of show them the path, the way to do it. And he's definitely done that. But, as we'll sort of talk about in some of the other stories this week, I don't know, they're just so far ahead. It's kind of crazy. But like the CEO of Ford actually, congratulated Musk on Twitter about being Tesla or Time Person of the Year. The CEOs of other car companies are starting to acknowledge that, maybe he is showing the new way. It's not, he didn't just make a good electric car. He has reinvented the car industry. Like, it isn't just that it's a decent electric car. He blew it up and started over from scratch. And some of the stories that we'll talk about later in the week kind of illustrate that point, I think. Okay, so the EPA figures are out for the Hyundai Ioniq5 and the Kia EV6. And I just wanted to mention this because, as we talk about other car companies trying to compete with Tesla, I do think that Hyundai, Kia are the furthest along. And so these are small kind of SUV crossover type vehicles, the Ioniq5 and the EV6 built on the same platform. And they're coming out with pretty decent efficiency ratings. The highest one for the Hyundai is 114 mpge, miles per gallon equivalent, and 117 for the Kia EV6. So this makes them in their class. The Tesla Model Y is the only model that beats them on efficiency. So as we learn more about electric vehicles, efficiency is really, really, really important. You can't just throw a bunch of batteries in a car and expect it to work. You just don't get the range that you need for the price that you need unless you maximize the efficiencies. So I don't know, just a little congratulations to Hyundai Kia for, seeming to get that point. And now the numbers kind of show it.
If you asked me 10 years ago, who would be competing on technology with, on electric vehicles with Tesla, which we all knew was going to take off and be a leader for many, many years, I wouldn't have said Hyundai, Kia. I would have said Toyota, because who was making the most hybrids? They had the technology, had the battery management experience with keeping those batteries in good condition and lasting 10 years, and they had electric motors and electrification, and yet they are the worst.
When there was an interview a few weeks ago with the guy, Redwood Materials, J.B. Straubel, he's one of the other founders of Tesla, and he gave an interview a couple of months ago, and he related a story about the early days of Tesla. So the Model S came out in 2012. They'd poured their heart into it. The car came out, and it was a good car. And at that point, they just doubled down and worked harder because they were sure that the other larger car companies with deeper pockets, because at the time, Tesla was nothing. They had very little money, very little anything. They were sure that the big players like in Detroit with deep pockets would just come in and crush them. Like they showed the way. Oh, it's possible. You can make an electric car. All these other guys are going to realize it and bury us. And it turns out they did nothing. And they've now squandered another decade doing nothing. And
the thing is, Brian, they could have seen that. They didn't want to because they were the incumbent.
I would have seen it if I'd been the CEO of Ford.
It was obvious to all of us paying attention 10 years ago, and now they're coming around. Toyota is not. Hyundai actually is not. I mean, I don't know, how did they manage to do it? I would have picked General Motors too, because they were making the Volt EV, and they made the first EV1 electric cars in the late 90s, early 2000s. They should have had a head start, yet here we are. They're not doing badly, General Motors, but here we are.
Yeah, well, Hyundai Kia being in Korea, they're still kind of the new kid on the block in many ways.
Maybe they're trying harder.
Yeah, they're trying harder. That's basically it. So, in the 1970s, the Japanese car makers were the upstarts, and they were the ones disrupting. And now they're the complacent incumbents.
Yep. That's what's happened there. And but I hope Hyundai is, I'm worried that they're not going to make enough of these babies. They're making compelling vehicles. They're making efficient vehicles, as you say, but they're not making a lot of them. And I sure as hell hope they are. And that brings us, let's move along to the next story on recycling of batteries. Because I heard on 2 different occasions this week, Brian, that people are talking about recycling batteries. Why? Because it's the best way to get more batteries, because they're worried about the supply chain. However, I don't see how they're going to get anywhere with that, because there's not a lot of batteries out there. The first EVs were made in 2011. There wasn't a lot of them made. Mine is 2 years after that. I'm hoping my batteries and my car is going to not be in the recycling bin, getting recycled into its base materials anytime soon. So where do these batteries come from? I mean, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, we'll be there. We'll have lots of EV batteries to recycle. They'll be at end of life, and there'll be a lot more of them. But right now, I don't know how that's going to change anything.
Yeah, we're definitely heading into a period of possible, huge constraints on the materials for batteries.
Yeah, and but it's still amazing. We'll get to Toyota in a second, but I don't think there's, if you're not fighting tooth and nail for every battery supply you can get right now and building factories and planning factories, you're not going to win. You're going to be in big, big doo-doo. So GM says we're not anywhere close to the bottom of the battery cell cost curve. That is interesting, because GM said that this week. Yeah, the cost curve, will remind people, is when you make a whole bunch of something, the price goes down, right? You see a curve of the more you make on this part of the axis, the more the cost comes down on that part of the axis. And we're not making a lot of batteries compared to what the world needs, both for EVs and for energy storage on the grid. So I've always been a big believer that cost curve is going to continue. Right now, it's averaging 18% a year. And I said last week that it was scheduled to be only 6% this year because of the crunch. And who knows what's going to happen next year. It could, it could conceivably go up for a year, or conceivably slow down again. We'll see. But there's also this bulge of factories that are about to come online in 1 to 2 years. And then every year after that, more and more and more. And that supply chain, the mines are getting started, and that takes a couple of years. Once all this comes together and coalesces mid-decade, oh, Nelly, that cost curve is going to go down. And it's already at a pretty good place, but if it continues to go down and they find further efficiencies in them and the manufacturing, then, yeah, the world, forget it. Sell your oil stocks now. So Li-Cycle is going to expand U.S. battery recycling. They sort of formed a hub of different places in the U.S., and they're going to expand by 40% to provide LG with nickel for the next decade. They're going to take nickel out of batteries, and they're going to sell it back to LG to make more batteries. They've announced plans to increase the processing capacity of the upcoming New York facility by 40%, in addition to expanding U.S. battery recycling footprint overall. It's also entered into a letter of intent with LG to create a closed-loop battery ecosystem. This is something I love. But again, it's going to be a while before we get there. That's when you get a fleet of vehicles in the world. They all have batteries in them. You take the batteries out. When they're done, you recycle them. You make new batteries with them. A closed loop. You're not mining anything new or very much new. And because that's the cheapest way to do it. If you want to stay in business, you do things the cheapest way to do it. And there's no loss to doing that, because you can really, recycle those minerals and purify them. So they're operating a series of battery recycling centers in the U.S. Called spoke facilities outside this hub. And but in Rochester will be the hub of these spokes. Take in much of the material gathered from the other facilities and use them there. So it looks like they're going to do part of the recycling in different parts of the country, and then they're going to take that and purify it and then turn it into the pure minerals to go back. So yeah, between that and GM saying that the cost curve is going down, and them talking about coming up with recycling sources for their cars, yeah, recycling is going to be a big thing. And it's going to be a profitable thing too. I don't know when it's going to pay off, so don't take any tips from James. It could be mid-century before it really pays off. We'll see. What do you think, Brian? Where's your stock market tips today?
Yeah, well, anything green energy is a good pick, but you're right. It's difficult to know when some of these things will, like Redwood Materials is another one, big battery recycling company, one of the founders of Tesla. But yeah, when is it going to take off? When is it going to become truly viable? So yeah, probably a good investment, but not if you need a return in the next couple of weeks.
I should have mentioned this right after Time's Person of the Year being Elon Musk. The Motor Trend Truck of the Year is the Rivian. No surprise though, right?
Oh, nice.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Yeah.
You were on the road. Well, everything happened Monday morning when I woke up. It took me forever to read through all this stuff. It was all announced.
And of course, the 2012 Tesla Model S was the Motor Trend Car of the Year that year. Again, a tip to the rest of the industry that electric might be the way to go.
I think that woke a lot of people up, Brian. It's sent some shockwaves. I don't think the Rivian is going to surprise anyone because it's been out, it's been reviewed, and people know to expect that trucks are going to perform so much better with electrified motors instead of transmissions and gas engines firing up to get the information, the power to the wheels. So that's it's good for them, and it's not. I don't think it's as big a deal as when they picked Tesla, because that was like, what? This startup with a electric car? Like, the world has changed so much since then, hasn't it?
No, it's almost like they were able to dismiss it at the time, like like the Motor Trend guys must be on drugs or something. Like there's no way this could actually be the car of the year. That they could they could dismiss it maybe as Motor Trend having wishful thinking.
But then, they were the best cars that ever tested. Was it Consumer Reports who did that? They had to change their algorithm or something, or was that Motor Trend? But the quality and the point system was all skewed because it had tested better than anything else. They had gone beyond the 10, the highest theoretical mark. And
and that's still a struggle with Consumer Reports because, the Teslas sometimes pour scorely, but the whole scoring system is based on the old technology, and they need to update it. Okay, it's time for the return of a segment called Brian Tries to Murder James by Raising His Blood Pressure. Do we have a theme song for that?
No.
Okay. All right. But, I've warned you that this may kill you. So
okay.
I'm legally protected. Is that how that works?
Sure. You're covered. That's solid liability backup right there.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention this because I know it raises your blood pressure. The whole idea of small modular nuclear reactors, this is a real buzzword in the industry. They're trying to kind of, I guess, reinvent the nuclear reactor. And, it's not maybe the worst idea, but it's just too slow, too expensive, takes too long. So Ontario Power Generation, this is here in Canada. They've announced that Hitachi is going to build their small modular nuclear reactor. So this may end up kind of being the design that becomes the design for Canada, because other places, including our province, are considering it. But
as a way to postpone the inevitable clean energy efforts. It's a way of delaying. Yeah, there's my blood pressure.
And that's why I'm mentioning it in addition to trying to murder James. But so they're expected to complete it as early as 2028, which means really 2030, 2035, who knows? And the estimated price tag could be up to $3 billion. So $3 billion, soonest it could possibly be ready is 6 years. We all know that's more likely.
Not going to be ready in 6 years.
Could be
12.
8, could be 10, could
12.
be 20. And if you just do the quick math and say, well, a solar panel costs about $500, with that $3 billion, you could buy 6 million solar panels.
Yeah. And you know what? And we've said this before. I'll say it again. They're probably not mentioning in that money, insurance, and other things because it's hard to get insurance. The government has to insure it because nobody wants to insure it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not against the technology. If it was the only thing to save the planet, I'm all on board. But I just don't think it's necessary. There might be some situations where it could be useful, but it is not. We're not going to dismantle solar panels and batteries and wind turbines to put up nuclear because they're somehow better. But they run 24 hours a day, James. Well, that doesn't matter, Brian, does it?
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons why
and
that
instead
doesn't
of
matter.
buying 6 million solar panels, you could buy 3 million solar panels and a bunch of batteries, and that would do the same thing. You start doing it, and you're right, it's the taxpayers that are going to have to pay for it because no private company would be dumb enough to pay for it.
Do you know how much it costs to run a solar farm? The wage of 2 grade 7 dropouts. That's about what it would take. You have a staff of 2 who monitor it.
Yeah.
That's true. I've looked it up.
Yeah.
Because they say, the new solar farm will employ, 5 million people assembling it and 2 afterwards. So that's how many you take. Nuclear takes a bit more, and then you have to dispose of it. But what about the solar panels? Well, they can be recycled.
So a nuclear plant would take, you'd have to employ approximately, say, 1,000 Homer Simpsons to run it.
If you're lucky. Now, I know this is a smaller deal and all that, but still you need people running it and water going to it. And and then the wind turbines need greasing every now and again too, and a couple of gear changes, but still.
No, and the other odd thing about it is that, like you say, it's got to be taxpayer supported because it's the only way it's going to happen, whereas the clean solution could easily be supported by private industry. Just open up the market, and then the taxpayer wouldn't have to pay anything. Private companies would just start buying those 3 million solar panels and just start putting them up.
That pisses me off. I'm getting to the age, Brian, where I'm angry about my tax money. They built a football stadium here and a few years ago, and they said they would never raise our taxes again. They just did, and nobody said a thing. It's just 0.34% for the stadium because, the pandemic. And the Canadian Football League might go belly up. They may not survive. I've always said that. There may not be real football because the mortgage is for 35 years now. And I know they're going to have to fix it before then. And it's just a lot of money that our small town is paying for a big football stadium.
It's a big stadium for a small city. I just kind of like, architecture and infrastructure, so I'm a little less angry than you. But just as a financial decision,
it too. I just don't like paying for it, and I don't like being lied to. They said the old stadium would turn into housing for poor people. Not happened. Not happened. And in any way, shape, or form. Yoink, switcheroo, and all that. By the way, Brian, I went for a colonoscopy on Thursday.
Oh, right, yeah.
I probably should update people so they don't think I'm dying. And
yeah.
It went well. It went well. It went very well. It couldn't have went better, I imagine. I was worked up about it, though. I was concerned that I was dying. And, because I'm like that.
They told you you're not dying.
I've had 2 other colonoscopies. I assumed I was dying then, too. And I've had, every little ache I get, I think I'm dying. But one day, the thing is, I will be. Damn it. Yeah. That's what pisses me off. I feel like my luck's run out. Like, this is it. This is my last bit of luck. Because I went in there, and I was actually conscious during the procedure. They have different drugs than they used to have.
Yeah, the drugs aren't as good as they used to be. It's true.
But I'm still, it didn't hurt. I was happy. And if I closed my eyes, I started snoring. I could hear myself starting to snore. Open my eyes, I felt like I was fully awake. So they go through the procedure, and everybody's in there, and I'm laying on my side. They're all behind me, and I hear chatter start happening after a while, and they get excited. And they were excited that they got to the end of my colon and didn't find anything because I was the first person of the day not to have a problem. And holy man, am I ever
thought you were going to
lucky.
say they were laughing because they found a gerbil up there.
No, I made that joke. The room went silent. And I don't know if it's because maybe they did find a gerbil or because they're just sick of that stupid joke. But or didn't understand it. I don't know, but you don't want a joke to fall flat when there's something 5 feet long up your buttock. So That's when you want the room to be on your side. Of course, if they start laughing, I'd probably get a torn intestine or something. But anyway, it was sad, though, because it was fairly late in the day. It was like 1:30 in the afternoon, and there must have been most of the procedures before that didn't go well. And I said, well, I feel bad for the other people. And the nurse snapped at me and said, oh, they're not all cancer. But, some people didn't get cleaned out. My sister-in-law didn't get cleaned out. I had to drink 2 liters of stuff twice. Oof. And I'm a big guy with a big stomach. I couldn't do it. It was literally impossible to do it. I don't know how a petite person does it. But you had to drink 2 liters of something. And the something is unpleasant. But anyway, I won't get into it. It's just impossible to drink 2 liters. I would have had to spend weeks stretching my stomach somehow in order to do it. Anyway, I've got a clean bill of health, and I'll be returning weekly with new editions of the Clean Energy Show until nature decides. My numbers up, or my heart gives out, which is more likely too. So, Brian, the Toyota is an EV announcement today where they've got a nice little picture of 30 EVs. They vary. One's a little pickup truck. One's almost a super sports car. Little hatchbacks, a little Jeepy thing. One almost looks like a Kona Soul. And one looks like a little minibus, and everything in between. One looks like a delivery van. All these 30 EVs they're going to have by 2030. And 2030 is when our show wraps up and comes to an end.
Yeah.
We will no longer be needed.
That's right. We'll have saved the planet by then. Yeah.
How many colonoscopies will I've had by then? I don't know. But I don't feel like they're actually, show me EVs that are going to be on the market next year. Show me where the batteries are going to come from. Not 30 sketches of different cars, what they might look like if they're EVs. It's like they're placating their stockholders or something. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh yeah, they're definitely doing that. Yep.
It's bull crap. And I feel bad for them. And their Toyota lot is empty. And I'm getting closer and closer. I'm like 3 months away before having to buy a car for my wife to use for work that has to be fairly new. And I don't know what to buy. Like, we're in Saskatchewan too, so we have very few EVs come our way compared to Quebec and BC, where they have zero emission vehicle mandates in place, or programs that encourage the selling of EVs. So I don't know. You know what I might have happen? I might just have to go buy a Prius Prime from Montreal or something, or like I said, I don't want to buy our vehicle because it was in 2 accidents, so I want to unload it. Well, I can, so that doesn't make it an issue to sell, but I want an EV. My wife wants an EV. She wants to preheat her car. She sees the Leaf on our frosty Canadian mornings, all toasted up and the windows melted, and she has to go start her car, and it takes forever to warm up. Yeah. So, kids, we are on Twitter and TikTok as Clean Energy Pod, and we are on the YouTube as well, where we put some special material up there from time to time if you're into the visual thing. And coming up soon on the show is the lightning round, where we bolt through the rest of this week's headlines. Brian, you have some Tesla news and EV news.
Yeah, so the first one is a new prototype of the Tesla Cybertruck has been spotted driving around. The Tesla Twitter community, super excited about that. So this is a slightly different version of the Cybertruck that's never been seen before. It's got the side mirrors, which they have to put on the car, which will possibly be removable. It looks pretty much the same as it did before. There's a few kind of slight tweaks. It's the first time we've seen a windshield wiper, and it looks like a massive thing that's on the side. So it's going to sweep from the side. But then also, and everyone was kind of complaining because it's a little bit ugly, but Elon tweeted that it is not the final wiper, not the final version of the wiper.
It's amazing how important wipers are to aesthetics.
Yeah. It's, I kind of like the idea of it being parked along the side, but it's when you do that, it's difficult to not make it kind of obtrusive and ginormous. And there's only one of them. Normally on a car you'd have two. But anyway, not the final.
You know what's challenging with windshield wipers in our climate here in Canada and snowy climates is that they usually disappear under the window into a little nook down there. And then the snow gets in there. You turn on the heater and it melts partially. Then it turns to ice, and then they get jammed in there. And then you got to get your scraper out and bang them out of there and then clunk the ice on. Maybe this will be a good thing for winter.
Maybe also some of the Teslas come with heated windshield wipers, and probably some other cars do as well. That would be kind of the ideal. What I do with my car. Fluid?
What's that? Is it the wiper that's heated or the fluid?
I thought it was the wiper, but I don't know that much about it.
I don't know what point it would be to heat the wiper, unless you just want to defrost it, I guess. That would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. What I do is, in my Tesla, is I put the wipers into wiper service mode,
right,
which puts them up slightly.
Yeah.
And then when the car heats in the morning, it heats the windshield and it ends up heating the wipers.
Yes, I do that too when it snows, only when it snows. And the Prius doesn't let me do that, but you have to manually just turn off the car when it's in the upright position. But the Volkswagen ID4 has a heated windshield, which we talked about. That seems like a sexy thing to have in our climate. I wonder if the Cybertruck or anybody else will get into that, or if it maybe be on the premium models at all. Because what does that even mean? Because do you have wires in there that are invisible? Because I'd really like to know.
Yeah.
Because that's really what a Canadian wants, is a heated windshield and nothing else. A couple tickets to Hawaii once in a while. Maybe a cruise. I don't know.
Okay, so this is the Tesla story I'm actually most excited about this week. And there's a new software update, and I have this software update for my car.
Oh.
And the Tesla can now detect tire wear and tread depth.
How?
So this is a very new thing.
How?
And there's an article here on Drive Tesla Canada, and they're only kind of speculating. They don't know. And as we've said before, since Tesla doesn't have a PR department, a lot of these things you kind of have to guess at, rumors. But the idea appears to be that when your car is new, the tire is a certain size.
Circumference is bigger. Does it have a GPS built in, and is that how it's doing it? It's saying that we're going less rotations per distance.
Yeah, it can figure out how many rotations, so that it can also figure out if one tire is doing more rotations than the other tire.
Ooh.
Then you have uneven tread depth.
Misinflated too, I suppose, but they could tell you that
could be misinflated. Yeah. So what happens when you change your cars, like when I put the winter tires on, within a day or two, a message pops up on my screen that says, we've detected that you've put different tires on the car or different wheels. And then it asks you to sort of punch in the kind of specifics.
Soon it'll be, we've detected a concerning spot on your kidney.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know.
Through the sensors in our seats.
We've analyzed your flatulence and you have 6 months to live, James.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just find this really exciting because, again, it kind of points to what we were talking about earlier. Tesla hasn't just made a good electric car. They've really reinvented the automotive industry. So, this is a feature they probably weren't even planning on having, right? But if you make it so that every aspect of the car is digital and you get data from every aspect of the car, then it allows you to make a feature like this. And it's as your tread wear, as the tires, they get smaller basically. So infinitesimally smaller as the tires wear out. And so, by the speed of the rotation, the amount of rotation, they can figure out, your tires are now worn based on what they were 6 months ago or 2 years ago when you first installed them. So, I just thought that was the most amazing thing. And it's been released with barely any notice at all. But I think it's a really important feature just because it points to all of the things that they're doing. But, they're doing so much, it's like they're not even publicizing this as the amazing thing it is.
How long before it sends the message to Tesla HQ and you get an ad for tire sales? Come into the service center and get $60 off a pair of Michelins.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be less in favor of that because I'm not a big fan of advertising in invading my space, but it certainly makes sense and is a potential revenue source for Tesla.
So Tesla is sort of toying with India, and the big deal there is that India has huge tariffs, 25% tariffs on cars that come in from elsewhere. So it's making it difficult for Tesla to just open up shop there. But it sounds like they've been negotiating with the government there, and now they're actually getting vehicles certified. What does that mean?
Yeah, so there has been news stories about Tesla talking to the Indian government and trying to get rid of some of these tariffs so that they can actually move into the country. So that hasn't happened yet, but they're laying the groundwork now, and they're getting some of their Tesla cars kind of certified so that they'll be able to be sold in the country. So not being sold yet, but this is clear that this is something Tesla wants to do. It's the largest car market that they're not currently in.
I would love to see them build a factory there. And I know it'll happen probably, and it'll take a while, but because Berlin's delayed again and everything's delayed. And you can't just build factory after factory. But it is a huge market, and boy, I would really love to see India clean up the transportation and improve their air quality. It's not going to fix everything alone, but man, I feel sorry for them. For you, because I know people are listening in India. Hello, send us a message sometime. Musk says he doesn't want EV subsidies this week. Does he mean it?
Yeah, I think so. But of course, it's that divisive thing about Musk that you'll see in the media. So yeah, he gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal, and one of the things he said was, scrap the EV subsidy in America. We don't need it. We don't want it. And I think with the profits they've been able to generate so far, I think it's pretty clear they do not need the subsidy. But they'll probably end up getting it if this passes. But you'll see, people posting on Twitter saying, oh, Elon Musk is pretending he doesn't want subsidies or doesn't need subsidies. So, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Half the people are always going to hate Elon, and the other half are going to believe him when he says something like that. And yeah, I believe him. They do not need the subsidies. And they also, of course, turned down a subsidy in Berlin. They were going to get something like $1.3 billion to subsidize their battery production there. But they ended up turning that down, and they said it was just, extra red tape that they didn't need. It was going to end up slowing them down. And once again, they don't need it. This is the Rockefeller analogy. Rockefeller didn't need subsidies to build the biggest fortune on earth in oil. And, Tesla is not going to need subsidies to build the next biggest fortune on earth, which will be on the replacement of oil and fossil fuels.
You know what he also said, though? He said, I don't care about subsidies, but you have to take away the subsidies from fossil fuels, right?
Yeah, no, that's obvious too. And it's important to mention that in the same sentence as well, that, he says get rid of the subsidies for electric cars, but also get rid of them for oil and gas. And as we've discussed many times on the show, there are literally trillions of dollars, billions of direct subsidies. But if you take into account the fact that the fossil fuels are literally ruining the planet, then that gets you into trillions of dollars of subsidies.
Man, I hope we move that way. I hope things get going, but who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if the United States is going to become a dictatorship? Who knows about anything anymore? But we really need to move hard on this and get things done, or we're hooped. So what else do you have?
So the Tesla Semi is apparently in limited production in Nevada. Nevada is the correct pronunciation. There was a report a few weeks ago that Pepsi said that they're going to get some delivery of Tesla Semis this year, and it looks like this is going to happen. But it's still limited production. But nevertheless, this is a big, big deal, because if you'll recall, when the Tesla Semi was announced 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of people said it wasn't even possible because, the physics don't work. And the speculation was, well, Tesla must have something up their sleeve. They must have some different battery technology. So this is the 4680 battery technology. And it looks like these Pepsi semi-trucks are going to be rolling soon as maybe a bit of a sort of a test pilot project. So it sounds like they don't have enough battery cells in production to get these fully ramped. But the fact that even a few of these are going to probably trickle out before the end of the year, this is a huge, huge deal because trucking is a massive, massive polluter.
Okay. Lucid has been subpoenaed over their IPO. Lucid Motors?
Yeah, so Lucid Motors, one of the EV startups that they've started selling their cars in limited productions. This is a luxury EV. And but there are some questions about they may have been misleading investors. Of course, this is one of those stocks that has really taken off. And it's, of course, taken off on the promise that they could end up being like another runaway juggernaut like Tesla. But, you know, when you're a publicly traded company, you have to be really, really careful about what you say to the public. Mm-hmm. You know, we made reference to Toyota perhaps just kind of keeping their stock propped up by announcing these electric cars. You know, hopefully that's not true, Toyota.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they made some possibly misleading claims about the number of cars they're going to sell, when they're going to be in production. You know, and it's okay to change your estimates and say, okay, well, the last thing we said was optimistic, but it was just the timing of it that, you know, they went public and then a couple of weeks later it was like, oh, sorry, those figures we told you, you know, a couple of months ago, those were a little optimistic. So it's around the timing of that. And you know, it could be that they possibly did something illegal.
Brian, I'm going to just run through some quick other notes here on the EV front. I noticed that Tesla was sort of doubling down on their anti-icing technology that they use in China, where a little sort of door comes up and prevents you from going into a charging parking space, and your app is what turns that down so non-Teslas can't go in there. I thought it was interesting that they're doubling down on it and putting them everywhere now. Do you think that's a technology that is worthwhile?
Yeah, I think so. As long as they can integrate it into the app and that it's seamless. So yeah, there's just a small little barrier that stops you from parking in a Tesla charger spot unless you're able to activate it and lower it. So yeah, this has now been integrated apparently into the Tesla mobile app that should make it a sort of a quick and seamless thing. Of course, it's going to be super annoying if it doesn't work and you're not able to get into the spot if you're a Tesla. But so far, Tesla's had good success with their app and their software. So I trust that they'll be able to do it well. And this can stop jackasses from parking in EV spaces.
Okay, I have an interesting question for you. Could this be used to keep other Teslas out? In other words, could you on your trip say, I departed from my trip and I'm going to need a charger at the halfway point in Davidson. There's only X number there. I really need it. Can I reserve it? A car estimates I'll be there at this time. You go in and it blocks other people from using it just to guarantee you a spot. Do you think they would ever go that far?
Well, it's certainly possible with the technology, but I'd be surprised because, you know, you want to maximize those chargers. So if you want to have them used at all times, you wouldn't want it to stop someone from charging.
Maybe it could be a premium service. It's always looking to upsell things. I heard Toyota is wanting to charge a monthly fee just to remote start your car. I think they're done, Brian. I think they're done. I don't want them to be done. I want to go buy a Toyota EV, but come on, people. VW has confirmed plans for an ID California electric camper van. Yeah, because everybody was they put this as part of their sketches for fantasy vehicles about 4 years ago. Well, they're confirming they're making it, and we said last week I hope they make it, and they are. So that's cool. Not for me, but for young hippies who smoke pot. GM has confirmed the Chevy Silverado electric pickup truck production will start in early 2023. That's a little over a year away. Looking forward to that. Hyundai has announced, okay, I'm going to skip that. And now, Brian, I have a new segment for you. Don't you just love it when we have a new segment on the show?
That's amazing.
And I actually have an intro for it. It's aviation news. Yes, aviation news, because this is a segment that is just beginning. And since there's a couple of interesting stories this week, we were talking, if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, in Vancouver and Victoria, Canada, there is a seaplane operation where they have regular short flights of seaplanes that land on water, that they're converting old planes. The company is Magni-X, and they're converting old planes into electric planes, which are working quite well. They just have to be approved by the government, which they will be one of these days. The pandemic slowed that down. These are commercial flights with people in them. And they're doing the same thing in Australia. Sydney Seaplanes is now partnering with aircraft engine maker Magni-X to make electric flight commercially viable. So, yeah, these are the same people who did it in Canada, but this Sydney Seaplanes operation is going big. They will launch the world's first all-electric zero-emissions airline. We believe there will be a revolution in aviation, and we want to be at the forefront, Aaron Shaw, chief executive of Sydney Seaplanes, said. This is the way of the future. So congratulations to them, and hello, Australia. I know you're listening. We like you down there. Brian, why are they listening to us in Saudi Arabia? We were number 5 last week in our category. Come on. What's going on?
That's a bit odd. I don't know. Is anyone, maybe there's a VPN that routes through Saudi Arabia? I don't know. If anyone has any guess on that, or of course, if there are listeners from Saudi Arabia, once again, please contact us. Or if anyone knows if there's a VPN based there, maybe that's the answer.
Or maybe all the rich sheiks are listening to us because they want to know if their oil stocks, they're getting financial advice from you, Brian.
That's probably it.
Eviation, the company behind one of the most advanced projects to deliver an all-electric aircraft for commercial services, has unveiled the interior of his electric plane that has 440 miles or 700 kilometers of range. Now, they've come out with one before called the prototype for Alice. They came with it back all the way in 4 years ago now, 2017. It had a range of 600 miles or nearly 1,000 kilometers. But this one is really decked out for luxury. And here's what I'm thinking, Brian. Hear me out. I think we should get one for the show.
Oh, sure.
I don't have a price tag yet, but we'll crowdsource the money. If you're listening in Saudi Arabia and you own an oil company or two, or perhaps you're part of the kingdom, royalty, send us, I don't know, 100 million, we'll give you the change. I don't know how much it'll be, but...
Okay, here's the problem. So 700 kilometers of range, that's pretty good, but that can't even get us to Calgary. So I'm still in favor of this.
Look, you just went to Saskatoon, buddy.
Yeah.
He's not going to have to stop at the Tesla supercharger to recharge your plane. You can make it there.
Yeah.
We can make it to your cottage if we put in a landing strip.
We make it a seaplane.
Your new rammed earth cottage, and add some seaplane legs on there.
But if there were charging stops and I was a billionaire and I wanted a private jet, I would absolutely want an electric one.
Oh, they're going to sell
even
some
if it
of
had
these.
Limited range. I would just want to be able to stop every 600-700 kilometers to charge it and then keep on your way.
Yeah. Well, there's people who make regular flights between, I don't know, New York, Washington, New York, Philadelphia, New York, whatever, Toronto, Montreal, San Francisco, LA. There's probably a lot of business routes that could go electric, and certainly with the wealthy people, it's configured to be only a 6-seater, but I'm looking at it now. It's luxurious. I can picture you and I in there, perhaps with a podcast setup. We could record the podcast from the sky, looking down on our listeners, and
we already look down on them now.
Oh,
but
sure, we do. There's no question about it.
Literally looking down on them.
So if you have a few $1 billion in the bank account, please consider buying us one of these planes. They will be available. Oh, look at the windows, Brian. 22 inches high by 16.5 wide. That is the largest in private jet world. So you have a nice view of our listeners. So yeah, the other configuration is 9 passengers, but this is, there's small airlines where we live that take people around with that many people in it. I don't imagine it's cheap, but yeah. So they're currently taking reservations. So yes, reserve one in our name, rich people. And we'll take delivery in 2026, right in the middle of our podcast run, Brian. And maybe you'll have the Rammed Earth Cottage up and running. We can make trips out there or something, or just, fly around for the hell of it. Go get a big gulp somewhere. I don't know. Or maybe we need another aircraft for that. Well, it's time for the lightning round. Oh, baby, we got one for you this week. We're running late. Brian, I don't have enough time to... I get a lot of questions from people, throughout the show. They message me, they email me, they send airmail, contact me in all the ways possible. I don't have time to even read the questions, let alone answer them. That's why I kind of wish we had a Facebook forum. There's one thing that Facebook is good for. But let's just breeze through the lightning round right now. Biden's Build Back Better Act would boost solar installs 31% through 2026.
I mean, they're already pretty good. Like solar is increasing every year no matter what. So tweaking at another 30%, well, better than nothing, I guess.
Harley Davidson's Livewire company that makes the Livewire motorcycles, all electric, is to become the first publicly traded electric motorcycle company. So mark one down as a first for that this week. Australia's coal-fired power plants are likely to close 3 times faster than planned. When were they planning to close them? Oh, never. Something like that. But they're now going to close by 2043. And I'll guarantee you they'll be closed by 2033. There you mark my words. If you need some coal, there'll be some free coal for you in Australia because you'll be wasting your money. It's cheaper to build new clean than it is to operate existing, let alone, shut them down, baby, shut them down. Ford announced 3 times increase in its Mustang Mach-E production. That's interesting. The company also alerted dealers that have a $1,000 to $2,000 price increase. That's kind of what Tesla's doing, right? Because of the shortage and the over demand for them. And some new packages will be coming for the 2022 models. I'm happy about that. Are you? 2-3 times the production is a good start.
Yeah, no, Ford has been recently increasing all of their estimates for how many of these vehicles they're going to make because, they're taking massive amounts of reservations for things like the electric F-150. So, good luck to Ford. Hopefully you can find enough batteries to make them.
There's some on lots where we live, and maybe not in the bigger cities, but the smaller towns have them. So you could go get one today. So that's cool.
The Mustang.
Yeah, but people are ordering a lot of them, and I wouldn't turn one down if I woke up next to it.
It's a good car, but it's expensive. It's in the same ballpark price-wise as a Tesla Model Y. So I would.
Yeah, that's
Tesla.
the problem.
Yeah.
That's kind of the problem. But a lot of people don't, if you're in California, you might be sick of Teslas. You might want something different. And of course, there's some allegiance to Ford as well, which I don't quite understand. But 59% of Angelinos, speaking of California, say that their next car will be either electric or hybrid. I wish that was a bit higher, but not bad. Rivian R1T, the electric pickup truck, is confirmed that it has 210 kilowatt peak charging. Not bad. But, Brian, it has a lack of a heat pump. Because that was in the EPA filings. I'm disappointed there because the cold weather is going to lose efficiency. Right? It needs a heat pump. Everything needs a heat pump.
That's too bad, but...
hey, maybe the Canadian version will have a heat pump. Maybe there'll be an all-weather package. It's still early days. They're still just spitting out the top ones. Researchers have shown that a 100% renewable U.S. grid with no blackouts is possible would create 4.7 million net jobs. Cleaner air would spare 53,200 people each year from pollution fatalities and millions more from pollution-related illnesses. That's a lot of people's lives saved.
No, and I'll just mention a quick story from, again, Ontario in Canada. There's a group of doctors that have come out publicly now trying to speak against a new highway that's been proposed in Ontario, and they're coming out against it just on health reasons. Because, as we know, gasoline-powered cars fill up whatever highway you build, and more air pollution kills more people.
Chinese company Pony AI, that's Pony.ai, loses its driverless testing permit in California that I didn't even know they had, following a single vehicle crash. Now, I saw where the crash happened, and it was a very stupid place. It was just a slight curve on the road with a low median. Then it just crossed and went right over the median and took down a sign. It seemed like it should not have done that.
And there was no human backup driver?
There was no human backup driver. Now they have to have human backup drivers. So, but yeah. Anyway, no one got hurt. Rather see that than someone get hurt. Figure it out with a non-injurious or fatal accident. Worldwide battery production capacity increased 440% in 2021 over 2020. Wow, indeed. Holy crap. Yeah. For those of you doubters out there, that's the only number you need to know right there, baby.
And every single one of those batteries has a use and a place to go.
Yes, it has a home waiting for it. It will not be orphaned. It will not be sitting around the orphanage waiting for someone to pick it up. Siemens Gamesa's massive 14 megawatt powered offshore wind turbine that we've talked about on the show has produced its first electricity into the grid in Denmark. Congratulations, there it goes. I think it's like 50,000 homes for one wind turbine. One wind turbine.
Wow.
Offshore. Curved blades. When you look at it, but it's interesting, the shape of the blades when you look at it from below in these pictures. It means that they're continuing to innovate the efficiency of the way these things are designed, and I think they'll continue doing that. Electric bus maker Proterra announced its third U.S. battery factory, planned for South Carolina, its first on the East Coast. Every week, battery factories are announced. The UN Weather Agency said Tuesday, today it has certified a 38 degrees Celsius or 100.4 Fahrenheit reading in the Russian town of Verkhoyansk last year as the highest temperature ever recorded in the Arctic. It is the latest in a string of alarm bells about a changing climate. The Meteorological Organization of the World said the temperature is more befitting the Mediterranean than the Arctic, and that was registered on June 20th, 2020, as if we didn't have enough problems, as that heat wave swept across Siberia and stretched north of the Arctic Circle. Terrible, shameful thing. It's 115 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, and they're looking at other possible records, including Death Valley, too. As of last week, this is all the time we have for the show, Brian. We have to get going. As of last week, Nebraska became the first state that voted for Trump to set a goal of 100% net zero electricity, something we haven't done in our own jurisdiction that I know of. They're looking at 2050 for that, but still, it is a Trump-voted state that has set a goal, and we figure that other states will follow suit and do the right thing. All three of the state's utilities have voted to adopt that goal.
And if you're a genuine, conservative, business-oriented person, you would vote for that because it's a good business decision.
That's our time for this week, Brian. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast as well as rate and review us on iTunes or other platforms. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next week for our last regular normal show of the year next week. Bye for now.
All right, see you next week.